After the All-Star break is the perfect time to make some potential league-winning adds to your team. Matt and I have you covered with some great players to potentially add on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're listening on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you can that for us. And if you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It subscribes to the channel and gives you notification every time we drop a new episode. And lastly, but most importantly, to Matt and I, guys, give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth personalized experience through text messaging alerts right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And you can find a link to our Subtext wherever you're listening or watching, or if not, it's available on any of our social media platforms. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB to use the code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. And guys, we're officially coming out of the All-Star break. I hope you picked up a big win. I hope you played that little bit of an extra, long week the way it should be played. I know Matt agrees with me on that one. But we have some great ads. This is, like I said, time. Not everybody's paying attention. They may not have been checking as much. So we have some really good names that are probably out there on your waiver wire that you could definitely sneakily add. Matt, why don't you take it away?
Yep, and just to premise everybody for this episode too, it's going to be like a streamaholic episode. I don't feel all but maybe one player on this whole list is kind of going to have more value outside of the next 2 weeks, but there are a bunch of great names. So let's start off with somebody that I'm adding this week, and that's Jon Gray of the Texas Rangers. My guy is, sorry, it closed on me, 27% owned and is a 2-start pitcher, at least projected to be a 2-start pitcher. He's going up against the White Sox on Tuesday, and then Toronto on the back end, who's been 5-5 over the last 10 games. So, they're kind of a little bit mad. They're last place in the division. So I kind of feel good about rolling out Jon Gray twice this week. We all know what White Sox situation is. You get past Luis Robert, and it's kind of not smooth sailing, but there's a lot less dangerous names in the lineup. Eloy Jimenez has just not been my guy recently, and it is what it is. I feel like Jon Gray is a great stream going into the week. Well, let's kick off the week right with Jon Gray.
Matt, great take there on Jon Gray. I don't have too much to add. We know who he is at this point in his career, and I will definitely take those juicy matchups. Once again, Jon Gray, starting pitcher of the Texas Rangers, White Sox, and Matt, Blue Jays. I love it. Great name there. Let's keep things pushing, though. Let's go with the guy on the return. Actually, somebody I think that could be really useful. I know Matt said a Streamaholic episode. I think this guy might be a little bit more useful than that. Let's talk about Robbie Ray, starting pitcher, San Francisco Giants, and he will be back this week. Once again, we know who he is. He's going to be a high threes. Maybe not a high threes. He went to say he's over in San Francisco now, so maybe we see a mid to low threes ERA potentially with Robbie Ray. He's in line to make his debut against the Dodgers. A little bit scary, but he's a guy that I'm not letting sit on my waiver wire. 43% owned. That's up 19% over the last day. During Robbie Ray's minor league rehab assignment this year, he made 10 starts. He had a 3.38 ERA and 0.85 whip, 45 strikeouts, 6 walks over 29 innings. Looks really good, and I like to see that the Giants went out there and they said, we're going to give him those starts that he needs down there to get right. He's looked really good, especially of late. Robbie Ray at 43% owned. I'd say 70-80% owned, in a good ballpark now. I'm just interested to see where it takes him, especially with a good minor league rehab, run here for him.
Yeah, I mean, Robbie Ray in his prime has always been, pretty darn good. I mean, you're never upset when you get him on your team. Let's put it that way. The strikeouts calm. He, usually eats up a lot of innings, except for when he's hurt like now. But I mean, he does do a lot of good things. He has a a somewhat decent fastball, 93.5 miles per hour. Usually keeps up a decent, ERA, obviously high threes, like a 370 in 2022. I'm kind of not mad at that if he gets that out there, but the strikeouts are kind of the thing that's really like going for me. He even has been able to maintain a decent whip over the last couple of years. Robbie Ray is a good ad. He was the one name I was referring to that has, long-term capability. So yes, I agree with you, Dom. Robbie Ray should be a really good ad going into the season. And, who knows? Maybe San Francisco is the resurgence of his career. We saw what happened when Rodon went there. Who's to say this can't happen to him? Maybe not to the extent, but that park does wonders for pitchers. And I'm all about adding Robbie Ray. Let's move on here, though. Let's talk about Trevor Rogers of the Miami Marlins. Trevor Rogers, he's somebody that's been interesting. I'm not like running out there and going to add him right now. But at the same time, I'm not upset when I go and get him. In a spot start, I kind of wouldn't mind getting him. I forget who he's going up against. Dom, do you have that offhand?
I can have you in 2 seconds.
So he's going up against Milwaukee on Friday. And, I'm not mad at it. Milwaukee has been good. The only thing is Churio has been so up and down and things like that it's kind of like, okay, are we really scared of this lineup? Are we not? It's kind of just like a wait and see what happens. Rogers rolling out this weekend, especially being at the back end of the week. He's somebody you don't have to add today, but he is somebody that you might be considering depending on what your strikeout numbers or, just how far are you behind? You need to pump out volume in general to catch up and not really care about the ERA. He's a perfect streaming candidate, honestly.
Yeah, Trevor Rogers isn't the guy that, we necessarily thought he was going to be after a few years ago when he lit the world on fire. But honestly, he's been like very serviceable of late. I'll give you his last 7 starts. So Trevor Rogers' last 7 starts, he's thrown 38 innings, 32 strikeouts, 17 walks, a 3.29 ERA. Batters are hitting 2.23 against him during that time. So he's been useful. And, as Matt mentioned, he's kind of been more of a streaming candidate than anything else, but at 7% owned, and I gave you his numbers of late. He's been, pretty good here. Pitching for those Miami Marlins of late. I really do like him, and I think he's serviceable. But coming up next, we do have a bunch of good names for you. We have a couple of more starting pitchers, and then we'll move into the bat. But once again, those names are coming up next.
PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. You pick more or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch their winnings roll in. Exploring my skills on PrizePicks this season adds an extra layer of excitement to daily fantasy sports. With just a few taps, you can transform $10 into $1,000 easily. PrizePicks is incredibly user-friendly. You can make your selections, submit your entries in less than 60 seconds. And as the host of Locked On Fantasy Baseball, I might as well give you some picks to start off with. Offer Paul Skeens to have higher than 8 strikeouts in his next start. And offer Jose Ramirez to, get a couple bases, about 1.5 total bases in next outing. And offer Bobby Witt Jr. to have higher than 0.5 home runs in his next game. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy. Passionate drive and patience is the formula for winning championships, and that's what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, your number one ride or die will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because eBay Motors has you're burning with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions may apply. eBay Motors Guaranteed Fit is only available for U.S. customers. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day? Have you had to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or free on the Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. As the season unfolds, rely on our dynamic content, get real-time alerts right to your phone, including waiver wire rankings, instant call notifications, injury actions, and a whole lot more. Stay ahead of your fantasy leagues by joining the Diamond Club on Subtext, where your path to victory begins. And new subscribers get a free 2 weeks. So join now. The link is in the description below. And wow, that was a lot. So please help me stop talking.
Of course, brother. I'm going to hop right in and let's talk about a Houston Astros starting pitcher, and that's Spencer Arrighetti. He's been an interesting one. You might be looking at the numbers on the year, and you like, Arrighetti hasn't really been that good. But 3 out of his last 4 have been really useful. That's dating back to June 26th against the Rockies. 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, didn't give up a run, had a 0.43 whip. Don't get me wrong, he went out against the Blue Jays the one after that and got rocked, but bounced back with a pretty decent start against the Twins on July 7th. Arrighetti, 5 innings, 6 strikeouts, gave up a couple of runs, had a 1.80 whip. And then in his last start on July 13th, Spencer Arrighetti, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, gave up a run, had a 0.83 whip in that one. And Spencer Arrighetti is only 7% owned, and his next start is coming against those Oakland Athletics, it looks like. Big strikeout potential. So even if he gives up a couple runs, maybe 2, 3, I still think he can go out there, give you 6 innings, strike out 7, 8 guys, and be a positive for the week for you. And then you can kind of just do the old pump and dump. I actually think his start after that was decent as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, the Pittsburgh Pirates, that lineup really isn't scaring me too much. So maybe you can get 2 sneakily good starts out of Arrighetti. And like I said, worst case scenario, you're going to get some big-time strikeouts. He does get a lot of Ks, whiffs, doesn't give up too much crazy exit velocity. So I really do think Spencer Arrighetti could be at least useful for his next couple of starts.
Yeah, I mean, the kid just likes to try to strike out everybody under the sun, and hopefully, the Houston Astros can kind of reel it in. He actually has like a full arsenal of pitches. He throws 5 pitches in total: 4-seam fastball, a curveball, a cutter, a sweeper, changeup, and slider. He lives on 4 pitchers. He really just doesn't do the change up and slider all that often at 7% and almost not at all. But the other ones, he does, have a decent pitch mix. If he can just learn to control the ball and kind of produce a little bit more ground balls, I think Spencer Arrighetti can honestly, go from the Arrighetti, the spaghetti, the sauce, and be real saucy out there on the mound. He might be somebody that, we could spot start for here and there, because I definitely want to roll him out and utilize him for the strikeout potential. But at the same time, next year, I think he's going to be somebody we're going to be like, okay, he's going to be a sleeper list, because he has a lot of potential to kind of take a step forward. It's just a matter of when and where. With guys like him, it takes a little bit of time. You look at guys like Snell, and I'm not saying they're on the same level, because the prospect pedigree is nowhere near, but you look at guys like that kind of repertoire of just, high whips, and, ERA gets blown up with a couple games. And once they start reeling it in, they become very valuable for fantasy and as a pitcher in real baseball. So Arrighetti has upside. He's a name you don't want to forget, because he's somebody I do trust rolling out there in a good matchup. But let's move on. Let's talk about Landon Knox, our last pitcher of the day. And Knox is another dude that, sometimes he just wants to go out there and give you a snack, and sometimes he wants to go out there and, just blow you up. But he's going up against San Francisco.
Come on, Matt. How did you miss it? Sometimes he gets knocked around.
He does.
I thought you had it lined up. I thought you were going to knock it out of the park. Sometimes he gets knocked around, I couldn't
knock it around, my bad. But, the closest I think I had was Snack Pack, and I'm thinking Billy Madison. But
anyway, no, that was a good one too.
But Landon Knox is interesting. He's going up against San Francisco. Plays for the Dodgers, so there's a good potential for getting the wins just being on the Dodgers alone. And San Francisco is a team that I'm not really scared of. Yes, they've been decent at times, but they're not a matchup I'm truly scared of. There's great defense behind him, and Landon Knox, even though he hasn't been the prime focus of consistency, but at the same time, Knox has been out there, and you have been able to count on him in certain spot starts. The last 2 starts haven't been wonderful, but last time he pitched against San Francisco on June 28th, he went 4 innings deep. He had 7 Ks, a 1.93 ERA with a 107 whip. So if he can even replicate that or even give me 50%, I'm really happy with the start. So that's a nice way to start off my week with Landon Knacks.
Knack is a good one. I do like him, and he has been pretty solid so far, as you mentioned. Thing is, I know Glass now comes back on the 24th. Kershaw comes back on the 25th. I know they were talking about calling up River Ryan at some point. The Dodgers rotation is just in a bit of flux at the moment. So you can definitely pick up Landon Knack, see where the thing goes with him. And, definitely just at least minimally grab him for the start this week and, ride the wave while he's still in the rotation. But I'm definitely keeping my eye on what the Dodgers are doing going forward. But Matt, great take. I don't really have too much else to add on Landon Knack. So let's move into the hitter portion of this episode. And let's start with TJ Friedl. TJ Friedl, somebody we talked a lot. TJ Friedl's been banged up here and there. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he has officially been back, right? He's been playing of late. Yes, he has. Has been back for at least the last few games there. I like TJ Friedl. He's
No, he's not back yet.
He's not back yet.
He's starting a rehab assignment. So
that's what it was. Okay, so he's been playing down in the minors and he's working his way back. That's what it was. Yeah, but with Friedl, those numbers last year, for the Cincinnati Reds were very, very productive. 138 games, 488 at-bats, 73 runs, 22 doubles, 8 triples, 18 homers, 66 RBIs, 27 steals, 47 walks, and 90 strikeouts with a 279 batting average. The one thing that is definitely legit is the power and the speed. He can do both of those things. Playing in Great American Small Park, definitely going to boost his production as well. And then those Reds are great for fantasy baseball, so the counting stats should be pretty good there with TJ Friedl. Loves what he brings to the table, so he's definitely somebody I'm looking to add and can be somewhat of a difference maker down the stretch. We did talk about a lot of these guys might not be difference makers going forward or guys that you add long term, but Friedl could be one of those guys.
Yeah, and it's weird though because Friedl doesn't have any of the underlying stats that scream I hit for power. His average EV is about 86. He's a weird prototypical hitter, but hitting in Great American Hitter Park, I think, changes the game. And he's been hot at times this year, when he was managed to play, be out there. And he went through streaks where he was very valuable just for even a weak start. He just obviously just been hurt. I think that, he should be, they're saying that with no setbacks from here to Friday, he should be up ahead of that and should be playing Friday. So that's why I'm saying to add him now. You add him right to your IL if you have an IL spot and, start him on Friday and go into the weekend with possibly a power boost as long as he's hitting at home. I like Friedl a lot for in those regards. So, add him now before, things kind of go wonky. But anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about Eddie Rosario. We'll sneak one in right before the break here. And Rosario is somebody that I kind of just threw on here because, we need a little boost. We need to start our week off right. And why not? Why not start with the multi-positional eligibility at Ahmed Rosario? Did I say Eddie Rosario? Sorry, Eddie Rosario. I apologize. I'm losing my mind here. Eddie Rosario of the Atlanta Braves. He outfield for the Atlanta Braves. So essentially last week, he had 2 runs, 2 bombs, 3 ribs, batting 273. He's not going to have a great batting average. Obviously, he has 187 on the year. But when he gets hot, I kind of want him on my team at all times. He's very, 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 what's the word? I'm sorry. I've had a long day. Streaky.
Volatile.
Yeah, streaky, volatile. And when he's hot, you just kind of want to ride that wave. And I think we're actually about to get it right at the beginning of this. So with Eddie Rosario, I kind of want to add him now, start him for the whole beginning of the week and see where this roller coaster takes me. If he's not performing by Wednesday, drop him like he's hot. But I have a feeling we're about to see a nice little streaming person for at least the first couple days of the week. But right after this, we have, Victor Robles, Shane Langeliers, obviously what Dom thinks of Eddie Rosario. But we'll be right back after this.
And guys, I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And guys, I keep mentioning it, but I didn't steer you along when it came to those Celtics in the championship. But guys, FanDuel also has so much great bets when it comes to baseball this summer. So look for those MLB bets on FanDuel. Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer now. And I'll just jump on in and I'll finish up my thoughts on Eddie Rosario here. I think he kind of nailed it on July 20th across the doubleheader. Eddie Rosario went 3 for 7 with 2 homers and 3 RBIs. That's what he does on the year. Eddie Rosario has 9 homers, 8 RBIs. Oh, no, 9 homers, 8 steals, 29 RBIs, 31 runs. Is 2% owned on Yahoo. This is a guy you would think would have at least 30% owned, 40% owned. Eddie Rosario, we know his track record. He can get it done. He's a legit baseball player. He's only 32 years old. Honestly, if you would have made me guess, I would have said he's older than that. And honestly, last year, Eddie Rosario hit 21 homers with 3 steals and a 255 batting average. I think he'll trend closer to that, so that means better days are ahead for him. Eddie Rosario is a career 263 hitter, just to remind you guys. And once again, in that Atlanta Braves lineup, the upside is very high. So honestly, in those 5 outfielder leagues, he should be owned in every single one. The NL only leagues definitely should be owned in those as well. And honestly, I'm giving him a look in any deeper league where outfielders are needed. Let's move on, though. Let's talk about this next guy. Former top prospect in all of baseball, Victor Robles. Still hanging around. He is playing for those Seattle Mariners these days. Not one of the best parks to, hit in, but he's making a little bit of noise over there right now. He is another guy that's 2% owned. This year, Victor Robles has played 38 games, 274 batting average, 8 runs, a homer, 5 RBIs, 10 steals. And over his last 4 games, Victor Robles has 5 of those 10 steals. He has a game that's 3 for 4 on July 13th, 2 for 4 in his last game on the 21st. Victor Robles has moved up to 2nd in the batting order. So I think it's at least worth a shot. Once again, even if it's just in deeper leagues, at 2% owned, a guy who has 10 steals, 5 in his last 4 games. So it looks like Seattle's just going to let Victor run here. I like it. I always love giving, a top former prospect a shot. Honestly, Matt, you might beat me to it. I don't know how close you are, but how old is Victor Robles now? He's got to be at, he's only 27. I was going to say he got to be at, I was going to do the bad boys too. He at least 30, but
you know what though? They caught him in the crib. They signed a contract when his mom pushed him out. That's
yeah. So that's what it was with Robles. 27 years old. Maybe there's a chance where there's a will, there's a way. But you know what? Let's give him a shot for now at the end of our benches and just see where it takes us.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about age 27 breakouts. I don't foresee it happening, but in the short little stint of like 64 at bats, the underlying stats aren't atrocious. He has a nice slug going at 468. He's barreling up a pretty decent amount of time. The launch angle's looking great. Not really chasing. Yes, he's whiffing and, and striking out a tad, but he is also creating some walks for himself. There's some positive stuff as well. Maybe the bats over there, maybe hanging out with Julio is kind of giving him adjustments. But I'm definitely not afraid to roll him out there if he's performing and getting hot. That's with anybody. I don't care who it is. So if Robles is hot, I'm going to roll him out there. And when he's not, I drop him like he's hot. So that's why he's here. I don't really care for any other reason but that. But let's move on. Let's talk about Shea Langeliers. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name too bad. But, he's somebody, it's interesting, right? Oakland Athletics, he's the catcher. And, it's weird. He has 18 home runs on the season. And that's pretty nice, I got to say, coming out of the catcher position. The counting stats aren't, wonderful. Runs 35 on the season and 52 ribbies on the season, which is a little bit nicer. But, he still plays for Oakland at the end of the day. But if he can get some power and some, counting stat production out of your catcher, I'll kind of roll him out there. Yes, he hit 100 batting average over the last week. But if I can sneak in a home run or 2 out of my catcher's position, even if he's the second catcher on my team, like in 2 catcher leagues, like I'm definitely going to try and stream him. But in single catcher leagues, I'd add him just to see how it goes. And, when my main catcher has an off day, I'll slide him in just for fun. Langeliers can definitely produce in both counting stats as long as it's ribbies and home runs.
Yeah, and with Shea Langeliers, he's a guy who maybe gets traded. Maybe Oakland just decides to just sell all out, going forward, and maybe he's a guy we see go to a better team. And at minimum, Langeliers is going to give you home runs. Matt mentioned the 18 he has, the 52 RBIs, 4 steals though. 4 steals coming out of your catcher position too. It's a little bonus. It might not be a lot, but hey, at least it shows you he's willing to run as well. Has improved from last year with the 3 steals, and that was last year was in 135 games, 84 games, and 293 at bats so far for Langeliers on the season. Improving at 26 years old, he was a former top prospect. I like what I've seen from Langeliers. All the underlying stuff looks great when it comes to exit velocity, barreling the ball up, hard hit percentage, even bat speed and sprint speed look really, really good on Langeliers. From the deep defensive percent as well, he looks good with his pop time. It's getting the glove, down the second base, throwing runners out. That leads to him his being good at caught stealing as well. Not so great at framing and the other stuff, but we're not really worrying about that too much when it comes to fantasy. Just throwing out the good and the bad there, because defensively, if he can at least be somewhat of an asset, he's going to continue to play a decent amount. So we like that from Langeliers, and that I think that's good on him. I think we did mention 36% owned on Langeliers. That's up 8% owned over the last day or so. Let's move on to potentially our last name of the night. That's Jose Caballero of those Tampa Bay Rays. And Jose Caballero, we've talked about him before, a Swiss Army knife, second, third, shortstop on eligible on Yahoo for Caballero, and he's actually played the last 3 games in a row. Playing time has been something that's been holding Caballero back, but in the last 3 games, he's had 2 multi-hit games over that time. He has 4 hits over that time, a homer, a steal, a couple RBIs, a couple runs. And on the year, Caballero, 25 steals, very, very good. 39 runs, not too shabby. 6 homers, 24 RBIs, 241 batting average. Tampa's been good. Tampa knows what to do with a lot of their young players. Caballero isn't an exception. The underlying stuff really doesn't look great except for when it comes to the sprint speed, but if we could just even rely on him for that, just getting some steals, hitting, not near the top of late, but, can potentially get back to the top with a little bit of a hot streak here with Caballero. Kind of, want to give the young bat a chance at 27, wanted to see where it goes with him.
Yeah, I mean, like you got to look at it like this. The competition to get on the field isn't hard. I mean, obviously Brandon Lowe is pretty much a staple there. As long as he's healthy, he's in the game. But guys he has to beat out is himself and Taylor Walls and probably somebody else that they kind of like to sneak in there. Essentially, like Ahmed Rosario, for instance, the guy I accidentally messed up for Eddie Rosario, and essentially kind of platoon. But when Caballero's on a hitting streak, they're going to play him. And the benefit of having Caballero in your lineup is when he hits the ball, he most likely is walking away with a stolen base. The dude already has 25 stolen bases on the season, and he's only had 231 at bats. And it's 26, excuse me. 25, I apologize. But look at the last year's stats. I'm all over the place. But anyway, Caballero is somebody that, can definitely boost you up. I mean, in the 15-team roto leagues, he's a great streamer. If he's out there, you probably should add. And, if he's not getting the consistent playing time by the middle of the week, obviously drop him. But, he's worth taking a shot on. He won't kill you on an ad. One game he plays and he gets you a stolen base, you got your ad worth right there. So Jose Caballero is a must add. Dom, if you have nothing else to add, I'll get us out of here.
Real quick, we got a little bit of time, so I figure might as well just throw 2 other. I know 2 names that we've talked about just a lot. I just want to throw it out there. Clayton Kershaw is on the mend, about to be back. He's only 64% owned. I say only. I know that's over what we normally talk about, but to me, that's very low for a guy that does have top 30 upside when he's healthy. Looks like Kershaw will take them out on Thursday against the Giants. Matt, how ironic and funny would it be if we see Kershaw against Robbie Ray on Thursday? I'd laugh at that. both make their returns. That is a potential matchup. And Kershaw, across his 2 rehab starts in July, 3 runs, 6 hits, a walk, 7 strikeouts across 7 innings. He's thrown 67 in his last outing, so he might be on a little bit of a pitch count Thursday. And my other name I will throw out quickly is Luis Severino. Pitched good in his last one. He's just been really good this year against the Miami Marlins in his last one, 6 innings, 7 strikeouts. He might get a revenge game against the Yankees in his next one. I know I will definitely be watching that. But guys, that is all for today. Please be like, go ahead, hop on. Of course, I'm sorry, man. My fault.
I got one more, a little sneak one if you made it this far. Jeffrey Springs should be activated this week. 35% owned of the Tampa Bay Rays. If you're in a league with me, you don't have him because I do everywhere. But anywhere else, 35% owned. Go out there and add him. But Dom, take us away.
Yeah, guys, that's all, folks. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. And to our everydayers and new listeners, thank you for making Locked On Fantasy videos. Or if you're listening each and every day. But guys, until next time, see you.
Peace.